Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing our top 10 prospects for the San Diego Padres system. So let's get into it right away. 1 through 10. At 1, we have shortstop CJ Abrams. At 2, we have starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. At 3, we have outfielder Robert Hassel. 4, we have catcher Luis Campusano. 5, we have outfielder James Wood. 6, we have shortstop Victor Acosta. 7, we have starting pitcher Robert Gasser. 8, we have shortstop Jackson Merrill. 9, we have outfielder Samuel Zavala. And at 10, we have starting pitcher Harlan Suzana. So those are our top 10. Chase, do you want to go into each of these guys right now and kind of give a brief rundown on who each of these guys is?
Yeah. So I believe we had Harlan Suzana on our last list too. He just signed with the Padres this last international draft period, and he's 19 years old, I believe. He throws 100 miles an hour, has some really good off-speed stuff. They're just looking for him to grow into his frame and find command and kind of just clean up his mechanics a little bit, and hopefully, lives up to his ceiling that he has. I mean, throwing 100 miles an hour as a teenager is just insane. Samuel Zavala was kind of the same thing as Daniel Montesino. He was one of the top outfielder prospects. He's a lefty. He rakes. He's kind of been comped to Cargo from the Rockies in his prime. Has a lot of power in his swing. Hoping to hit for some average. He slots in as a corner outfielder, not a center fielder. They're saying that he's probably going to be a right fielder in the future. Number 8, Jackson Merrill. He might push himself a lot higher in this list with the upcoming season, because we've just heard great things from him. He's 18, 19 years old. We've heard that all of his skill sets are above an 18, 19-year-old. He plays baseball much older than he really is. We saw him in spring training. I still believe he's there. He's hit some pretty good balls. He's got on base, and he's made some great plays in the field. I mean, if you haven't seen it, the relay with Profar, he throws an absolute dime to the catcher, perfect spot, gets the out. Played that perfectly well. Robert Gasser, one of my favorite prospects. He's a lefty, sits in the mid 90s, has a pretty good slider, curveball, and changeup mix. He's probably going to be a good depth piece to have. If not, he's going to push his way into the rotation within the next couple of years. Just want to see how he's in AAA this upcoming year, but he has a lot of potential. Victor Acosta, we've been really high on him ever since he signed with the Padres, and he is a switch hitting shortstop that has the potential to be an above average hitter from both sides of the plate with power. He's really good defensively. He has speed. He has your prototypical 5-tool player setup. It's just up to him whether or not he can live up to his ceiling. At number 5, we have James Wood. He was the second round pick, and it kind of felt like he should have been the first round pick last year. The kid 6'5", he flies like the wind for his size. He hits for a ton of power. There's a couple of videos of him hitting home runs. Absolutely insane power. Projects to be a left or right fielder, probably right fielder. He has the arm and speed for it, and he's your prototypical power bat. Can't wait to see him in his year in the minor leagues and see what he can do. Number 4, everybody's fan favorite, Luis Campusano. Don't think he's going to make the roster this year. Doesn't look like it. I mean, we already have 3 other catchers, unfortunately. Just for him, everyone knows his bat is MLB ready. We've seen him hit a couple of tanks in spring training. His only real question is he going to be a catcher in the future? Well, we've seen a lot of problems with his defense. We kind of saw it in spring training where he let a couple of foul balls, and he just doesn't call the best games or block the best. So there's a lot of question marks with the defense for him. At number 3, we have Robert Hassel. Coming out of high school, he was compared to Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich. He had a pretty good season. When he got to high A, he started to struggle a little bit, but in single A, he raked. He did have a little bit of regression moving up one minor league division, but we'll probably see. He might make his way up to Double A. We'll see. There's been a lot of trade rumors involving him, but he is another guy that He could be a center fielder. He has the speed for it. He has the arm for it. Guy has some power. He has the arm. He hits for contact. But the real question is how is he going to develop over these next coming years? At number 2, our favorite guy, or at least my favorite guy, Mackenzie Gore. What a story this guy has had. I mean, being the number 1 prospect and falling down to being probably the best left-handed pitching prospect in all of baseball one year to barely ranking in the 50s for top 100 prospects. He had a lot of problems with injuries, mechanics, and everything. Looks like Ruben Niebla has got him set straight because great spring training outside of the one grand slam, which one bad pitch made his whole spring training stats look a lot different. But before that, he had a 15-2 walk to or strikeout to walk ratio, absolutely insane. Looks completely reformed. Had like a 1.16 ERA before that, before the grand slam. Looks like he's completely MLB ready. He might force his way onto the roster. We'll see. There might be some upcoming moves that we don't know about. But as of right now, it looks like he's going to start off in probably AAA just to get more seasoning in. But looks like he's back to where he needs to be. And at number 1, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. He was our guy last year, CJ Abrams. There was always a question whether or not he could hit for power. You know, people said he swung a wet noodle. He didn't have any power. I think with this spring training, I think he's quieted those haters up a little bit. He showed power oppo. He's pulled one. He should have 3 spring training homes. The one that went foul was an absolute tank. I mean, that was a no-doubter. Unfortunately, the umpire called it foul, but it looked pretty fair to everyone. I think most spectators would say that was a fair ball. He is a 5-tool player. Guy has incredible speed, flies like the wind. Having last spring training, he hit a triple where by the time the ball was getting back into the infield, he was already standing on third base, basically. He has the arm to play short. He has the arm to go move into the outfield if he needs to. He has the speed. He has the glove. He hits for contact. He is a complete hitter. He can push a bunt down the third base line if he needs to. He hits for average. The only thing is he going to start on the MLB roster or is he not? That's basically the only question left. And it looks like he's going to force his way onto the MLB roster with how his spring training goes. But yeah, there's our top 10.
Yeah, man, definitely. You brought up CJ Abrams might be pushing himself onto the opening day roster. I think, the attempt to move Eric Hosmer absolutely shows that the Padres want him on the opening day roster. With the plan seemed to be Cronenworth at first or Luke Voigt, depending on the day or who's pitching. And then they wanted to put Abrams at second and Kim at short. That absolutely looked like the plan. And I still think that's going to be the plan. I still think he has a really good shot at the opening day roster. Now, of course, in this top 10, there's a couple guys who are expected to have a very, immediate impact here soon, that being CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, maybe Luis Campusano. Might see him this year, might not. Those 3 guys are especially thought of to have a pretty quick impact here soon. But there's also guys like Robert Hassel, who's I think he's projected to come up next year or the following year, but he's looked fantastic. I think coming out of his draft, he had the best hit tool. People were saying he had the best hit tool. They didn't think it was going to go that high, but he definitely had the best hit tool coming out of that draft. James Wood, for his size, is a very, very good athlete. And if you're looking at, so I went on Baseball America's 2025 projected Padres lineup and starting pitching staff, and catcher Luis Campusano, that's a guy that is, I think we all kind of expect. And this is as of right now, with the prospects right now, because we all know Hassel and Campusano have been brought up a lot in trade talks. But going based off right now, Campusano is projected to be the catcher. Abrams projected to be the second baseman. Left fielder is projected to be James Wood. Right fielder is projected to be Robert Hassel. And the guy that was in our last video is projected to be the DH, Joshua Mears. Mackenzie Gore is projected to be the number 3 starter with Paddock and Weathers following him. So, of course, there's a bunch of guys that are projected to make an impact by 2025, and we think they're going to make a very big impact. CJ Abrams is our favorite. Well, Chase's favorite guy is Gore. Mine's favorite guy is CJ Abrams. I think he's going to be fantastic. Of course, my second favorite guy is Gore. I think Gore is going to be super fun to watch. Just going based off what he's done in spring training, man, it's really fun to watch him. And I mean, what's more exciting than seeing your very own prospects that you've been waiting to develop and waiting to see succeed? I think this is going to be a really good top 5 class for the Padres. Abrams is going to make a very an impact here soon. We think he's going to be a rookie of the year caliber player starting this year, we think the same of Mackenzie Gore, even though he might not start in the bigs because there's a lot of arms in the rotation right now, unless we trade away some pitching depth, which the Padres very well may. And I think that shows that they do have confidence in Gore. We might not see him to start the season, but really, really good class for this Padres team. And I think the top 5 are going to round out very well in their future.
Yeah, absolutely. Really pumped to see these guys. I definitely do hope that CJ Abrams is on this roster to start the year. Also feel the same way about Mackenzie Gore, but I think it's a lot less likely that he does start right away. But with CJ Abrams, I mean, we've talked about, the issues with having Eric Hosmer on this team. CJ Abrams is the guy that can kind of move Eric Hosmer out of a starting role. We've seen how good he looked in spring training. If he is your starting shortstop or your starting second baseman with Ha-seong Kim, and you move Jake Cronenworth to first, that's the best options you have currently in-house in the infield. If it works out where Kim is your depth infielder, Manny's your third baseman, Fernando is your shortstop, Abrams is your second baseman, and Cronenworth is your first baseman, I get that people don't like the idea of moving Cronenworth to first, but I mean, it builds your best infield. So we'll see if CJ is able to do that this year, but he's a legit 5-tool player, and there's a reason he's number 1 prospect here. I mean, I think he's an emerging superstar, and I am pumped to see him hopefully this year, and if not right away, then very early on in the season, because I think that he's the guy that can really change the way that this Padres season looks like, especially with Fernando out. So hopefully we see him. Mackenzie Gore definitely had a much improved spring. I think you're going to see him in AAA. I think you're going to see him work on some stuff, but it seems like, he's going back to being that top end prospect like we all believed. Robert Hassel, James Wood, if they don't move one of those guys, that's probably your corner outfield of the future, which is very, very intriguing. And I think that everyone should be very hyped for both of those guys to come out. Then looking at the rest of the list, Campy, it feels like he might get traded. Kind of hard to tell, but I mean, he is a tremendous hitter. So the big question is he going to be a catcher? Is he going to be a DH? Is he going to get moved to first? Where is he going to play? So that's a big question with him and also, of course, the trade stuff, but fantastic player. And then you look at kind of the rest of this list, and Victor Acosta, Robert Gasser, Jackson Merrill, Samuel Zavala, and Harlan Susana. Those are your young players that are going to eventually be called up, but I think they're all teenagers. I think Gasser might be 19. Yeah. So I think he's the oldest of the bunch at 19. So you had a very, very young bottom end of your top 10, at least for us. But I think all those players can end up being top 100 players on the MLB prospect list. Not this year necessarily, but in a couple of years, we might see them up there. I think the majority of them will be up there. And I think they all have the ability to right now with what their talent shows. But I think that's going to do it for our top 10. So anything else you guys want to add on these guys before we take off?
Credit to Jackson Merrill, man. He's having a good spring. I just wanted to say that real quick because I forgot to talk about him.
Yeah, and that's definitely worth noting because we do have Victor Acosta ahead of Jackson Merrill. Doesn't mean that we don't believe in Jackson Merrill. I think that we just are very, very intrigued by Victor Acosta's numbers that he put up in rookie ball at 17 years old. I get his rookie ball, nothing to freak out over, but I mean, him and Jackson Merrill are two guys that could be really, really big difference makers, and they are middle infielders. So is CJ Abrams. So we'll kind of see how the Padres end up constructing this roster, but it's good to have talent either way. So we'll see what happens with everyone in the prospect list. I'm sure some of these guys are going to get traded. I'm sure some of these guys aren't going to pan out, but you can't argue that there's a lot of talent here. I mean, there definitely is. So excited for all these guys, even if they are young. We might not see them for a while, but definitely guys to keep monitoring. And we'll see if they end up becoming top 100 prospects. But with all that said, that's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you guys for listening. We're going to be posting a couple episodes throughout the week. And then on opening day, we're going to go live about probably an hour before the game starts, I'm guessing. So make sure to hop on and join the live stream when we do that. That'll be an hour before first pitch. I believe first pitch is 6:40, I want to say. So should be like 5:30, 5:40 that we come on live. But with that said, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you all very soon.